You can't hear it, you can't see it, you can't smell it, but when it hits you, you can certainly feel it.
It felt like walking into a furnace mixed with a bit of a sting.
Such are the effects of getting slammed with 12 joules per centimeter squared of energy, even, as in this case, from 750 meters away. The military claims that this particular frequency, 95 gigahertz, while extremely painful, is ultimately harmless, penetrating the skin less than half of 1 millimeter. For missions such as crowd control and checkpoint security, the pain ray offers the military an option between shouting and shooting.
We're involved in a counterinsurgency operation. You want to win the hearts and minds. You don't want to kill the people that you're trying to protect.
But in a world where perception is reality, the perception of the active denial system has been its Achilles heel.
Well, in 2010, it actually was deployed to Afghanistan, and then very, very quickly, General McChrystal, when he was the commander there, sent it back. He was concerned about the propaganda effects, that the Taliban would be able to say the U.S. is zapping or microwaving Afghans.
That sometimes, I think, becomes confused with a microwave, and no, it's not. Wavelengths are completely different.
To counter the perception problem, the military has invited the media out to not only see it demonstrated, but to experience it for ourselves. So we did. Here's our camera person, Trudy Hutcherson, one of many journalists stepping in the target zone today. The Pentagon has invested $120 million developing this system, but for now there are no requests for it, presumably because the perception of it remains too hot to handle. Josh Rushing, Al Jazeera, Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia.
The Pentagon announced that it has awarded a $16.28 million contract to Raytheon for a prototype high-power microwave weapon system. The U.S. Air Force will deploy the weapon overseas at an unspecified location for a year-long assessment. The system, called Phaser, can disable drones weighing less than 55 pounds that fly at altitudes of 1,200,000 to 3,500,000 feet and speeds of 115 to 230 miles per hour. According to Popular Mechanics, these include drones like the RQ-11 Raven and ScanEagle. Phaser projects radio frequencies in a conical beam that can disrupt or destroy a drone's internal systems. It is an electric field effect rather than a thermal one, but the results are instantaneous. The Drive reports that targeted drones either fall out of the sky or initiate a pre-programmed emergency procedure. The weapon has anti-swarm potential, having been designed to counter groups of drones simultaneously. It also has an unlimited magazine that can help repel sustained attacks from multiple groups of drones. Fox News reports that the move appears timely due to the recent drone strikes on 2 oil processing facilities in Saudi Arabia. Around 20 drones and cruise missiles were used to carry out the Saudi oil attacks, and according to Popular Mechanics, some of the drones may have been small enough to be disabled by Phaser.
A wave of extreme heat that comes from nowhere. It's one of the U.S. military's newest non-lethal weapons, an electromagnetic beam that emits an odorless, invisible, and silent blast of heat.
It felt like opening up an oven door, almost mixed with a sting from about my sternum to my neck. So like you started really feel it on my neck before I had to kind of instinctually jump out of the way.
This weapon, under development for 15 years, has yet to be used in the field. The technology has attracted safety concerns, though the U.S. military says the rays do not penetrate the skin and pose no health risks.
If an operator is squeezing the trigger and there's a lot going on and he inadvertently keeps squeezing the trigger, there's an automatic shutoff for 3 seconds.
Out of 11,000 exposures on people, only 2 minor injuries have been recorded. The Pentagon has not yet decided whether it will order the active denial system, whose powerful beam can reach up to 1,000 meters.
Picture like an invisible searchlight, right? You know what a searchlight looks like? So an invisible searchlight of radio waves going downrange. So it's this big when it starts, and at the end, it's the same size.
Eventually, the weapon could be put to a wide array of uses, such as thwarting hostile attacks, dispersing mobs, and reinforcing security. For now, it remains just a prototype.
threat that our military wasn't necessarily ready for. But now engineers at Kirtland Air Force Base have come up with a solution. And as News 13's Stephanie Chavez shows us, they were under the gun to make it happen quickly.
Kim, the tactical high-power microwave operational responder, easier to remember by its nickname Thor, is dropping the hammer on drones.
And let's be clear, our adversaries aren't using these drones as toys.
Now, thanks to a group of researchers at Kirtland Air Force Base, there's an easy way to kill drones threatening our military forces.
We create a counter-electronic effect, and we target the drones, and we drop those drones. We implement a hard kill on those drones and drop them out of the sky.
Thor was created quickly for a high-powered microwave system, only taking them 18 months.
And taking a normal, 5 to 10 year development effort and shrinking that into 18 months.
And the deal is that these threats are happening now.
It was crucial to create something that could be used immediately. It cost about $15 million to create, and at least half of that was spent in Albuquerque.
We created on the order of 20 full-time jobs in Albuquerque.
It's practical. Built in a storage container, Thor can stand up to hurricane force winds.
It's built to be a beast.
Be assembled quickly.
We built a system that you can unpack in 3 hours.
And it has a much farther reach than bullets or a net gun, making it simpler and more efficient than shooting the drone. Thor can work off of a generator, so it can be deployed anywhere. Back to you.
Okay.
The Pentagon has a heat ray. It's invisible, it's silent, it's real, but it's not deadly. Officially, it's called the Active Denial System. Here's how the military says it works. It shoots an invisible beam of intense electromagnetic waves at human targets that penetrate the skin about 1/64 of an inch deep. The beam creates what the military calls an intolerable heating sensation that makes people instinctively move away from the beam. The heat ray can reach a little more than half a mile away. Its creators say it's harmless and offers troops a non-lethal alternative during threatening confrontations. The active denial system can be used for crowd control, securing a perimeter, and protecting a convoy. This technology has been around for a while, more than a decade, but it's been keeping a low profile. The Marines have used it in training exercises. In 2012, the military said the heat ray was available for operations worldwide, but there were no current plans for deployment. In the future, the heat ray may go portable. The Pentagon wants to develop a smaller, lighter version, easier for troops to carry. Wider use of unconventional ideas like the heat ray may lead to more new weapons that protect troops without hurting civilians.
Operationally, it works just like a laser pointer. There's a chamber inside with special materials that release photons.
If you're looking at a boat coming in over the water, you can target exactly the engine and take out exactly the engine and not necessarily damage anything else. So, and that type of precision weapon work is something that you don't really get with conventional weapons because there tends to be more collateral damage.
It's useful against a variety of threats, surface or air. It's not a niche weapon system like some other weapons that we have, throughout the military, where it's only good against air contacts or it's only good against surface targets.
We hit every target we wanted to. We prosecuted everyone. We made science fiction science fact.
We're not quite up to the place where the Star Trek and Star Wars movies are, but this is definitely an advancement in technology to be able to give us an opportunity to do things that we couldn't do before.
When that computer went out, when we fired, it actually took out the cameras as well. We took out everything on that. It was fantastic.
As of today, 26 American embassy staffers in Cuba, 1 diplomat in China now are confirmed to have suffered what the U.S. government calls health attacks. Now a mother is speaking out for the very first time in this NBC News exclusive.
Last year, Catherine Werner, a U.S. diplomat stationed in China, told her parents she was experiencing strange sounds and sensations in her apartment. Her health was declining rapidly.
Just struggling, and she's just a shell of what she was.
Her mother, Laura Hughes, an Air Force veteran, was so alarmed, she quickly booked a flight to China.
You notice when something's wrong with your children, and there was something very wrong with Catherine.
Laura tried replacing the apartment's air filters and buying imported food. Nothing helped. And then Laura says she started feeling it too.
We heard a very high-pitched sound in Catherine's bedroom, and we heard a very low pulsing sound in the living room. Our heads would pulse. You would feel like you would want to regurgitate. You could become instantly paralyzed, instantaneously fatigued.
Laura has also developed visual problems, including sensitivity to light, which is why she's wearing dark glasses today.
New details on a series of bizarre attacks. Dozens of unexplained illnesses, including head injuries, forced the U.S. to bring home diplomatic staff from China and the U.S. Embassy in Cuba. Speculation at the time was that it was some sort of sonic attack. But now the scientist who led the investigation tells the New York Times the main culprit is likely some kind of microwave weapon. CNN's Patrick Oppman is following the story from Havana. So, Patrick, what happened at the U.S. Embassy that led authorities to suspect that it was indeed an attack? And now we're talking about these, a microwave weapon.
It's still very much a diplomatic mystery, but let me walk you through what is a very complicated case. It all began November 2016, right after the U.S. presidential election, and that is when U.S. diplomats based here in Havana said they begin to experience these really strange symptoms, often at night, sometimes while they're in bed, asleep in their homes or their hotel rooms here in Cuba, and they said that they would feel nausea, hear loud sounds, hearing loss, but if they got up out of bed, if they left the room where they were in, it would stop. If they walked back into where they had felt this incident, this attack as they described it, it would start again. So they felt that they were being targeted with some sort of mysterious beam of energy. Initially, they complained to Cuban authorities about what they felt they were being targeted with sonic weapons, and these are weapons that do exist, usually used for crowd control. But experts consulted by CNN at the time, said that sonic weapons really don't work like that. They don't usually cause someone to hear a noise, and they're much too large to be used in this capacity.
Now, new developments in the mystery attack on American diplomats and their families in Cuba, and new cases under investigation. Representatives for those diplomats now claiming some Americans suffered traumatic brain injuries and permanent hearing loss at the U.S. Embassy in Havana. Here's ABC's David Curley.
Word tonight that some American diplomats serving in Cuba are said to not only have suffered mild traumatic brain injuries, but also some with permanent hearing loss. The Foreign Service Association saying it met with 10 of those affected who were hit by the apparent sonic harassment attacks. Some